My name is Benjamin Gonzales. I've been cancer-free for 10 years. When I was 16 years old, I was diagnosed with Burkitt's lymphoma, and 3 months later, I went and got diagnosed again with a very rare form of lymphoma, and it was a small cell variant of a Chi-1 anaplastic lymphoma that grew extremely rapidly.
So I had friends visiting. We went out to a party, and I'd had a little bit to drink. It was really icy, and I slipped and fallen. And I broke my tailbone twice, so I for some reason was like in tears, and so I had to call my mom. So I called my mom at midnight, and she's like, all sympathetic with me and everything, and then she says, "Oh, I have to tell you something." And I say, "Okay," and she tells me that Ben has cancer. I'm on, so I start bawling. I start crying even more. And my high school friends, I look over, and they're sitting on the couch just like really wide-eyed and not really sure what to do with me. And my roommate, whose parents have both died of cancer, let me finish my phone call. I tell my mom I'm leaving. I'm coming home tomorrow, and wasn't sure how I was going to do that, but I was going to get home somehow. And my roommate, when I hung up the phone, grabbed me and kept me from flying around the room, because that's all I wanted to do was just yell and scream.
When I was 16 years old and I was diagnosed the first time, I was currently wrestling at the time and developed a giant tumor under my armpit, and we had it taken out, and the biopsy came back positive for the lymphoma. The next day I was in doing CAT scans. The day after, I was getting large dose chemotherapy, and that happened through the summer until it went into remission, only to come back in December, in which I went through another heavy regimen of chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and eventually an autologous bone marrow transplant, which is me giving myself my bone marrow. And I was in the hospital doing that for, believe it or not, only 3 weeks, and I came back and finally was able to finish out high school, eventually go to college. When I got out of my bone marrow transplant, I went home a little early. 3 weeks is very unheard of. I never had to have any blood transfusions. I was a lucky one because I was young, I was strong, I'm an athlete, and so I had a lot to give up. Through the course of that last month, I lost about 80 pounds. I went from about 230 to about 150, and it devastated. I was skin and bones. But it wasn't necessarily the cancer that came closest, or the infection that happened with my catheter. It was when I was doing the bone marrow transplant. The basic idea is to kill you off with poisons and then grow your insides back from the bone marrow very slowly. I got out of the hospital and I still wasn't eating or drinking for about a week and a half, nearly 2 weeks, and the worst thing that happened was the recovery from the morphine. I had so much pain reliever morphine to suppress a lot of the pain that when that got cut off, it was what I would equate, and I don't have any experience with it, I guess would be equation to trying to recover from heroin in a week, cold turkey. I made it through some help from friends and such, and believe it or not, my recovery after 2 weeks was very rapid.
I personally never thought that he was going to die. I don't know why. And it wasn't like a conscious thing. It was just it never occurred to me that would be. No, that's not true. It did occur to me, but I never believed it, that would be the end result. And so, I don't know. I think he's just the same person. I don't think anybody. I think somebody with a lesser, more pessimistic type of personality would not have made it as well as Ben did. And he had really good friends that helped him, and because we're a close family, I think that helped, because we were always around and always there for him, so I think that helped.
And I learned a lot from it, and it really shaped, I believe, who I am. And the one thing I could say is that every night I go to bed and I ask myself if I was a good person that day, because who knows what happens the next day. I've already faced the fact that I've woken up and it's basically had someone say my life is over. So every day that I go, and I don't worry about things in the future, I don't worry about it coming back, I don't worry about tomorrow, because you have to live in the day when you're healthy, when you're walking. But in the end, it's just going to matter whatever you believe in, if you're a good person during the day.